these are people's homes that you're working with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let them stay a little bit longer. Have a nominal increase. At the end of the day, you're still going to win by having the mortgage paid off. Don't be greedy. Don't be a slumlord. Yeah. Fix your problems. Fix the issues. 100%. Invest back into your property and just treat it right. It's somebody's home. You're making a home for somebody. You're fortunate enough to have the capital to be able to own a property, to provide a house for somebody, and they're paying for the use of it.
Got it.
Right? That's as simple as that. And the laws are there to protect both sides to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as we sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
Guys, welcome to another edition of Broadview Table Talks. I'm here with Bahder.
What's going on?
He is our agent that just became a first-time landlord.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm so happy for you, man. That's big news.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I had a question. Do I still have to have insurance for my property?
I absolutely would keep your insurance policy. So what you can do is you can tell your insurer that you're going to have a landlord policy now, right?
Okay.
Tenants will have their own contents policy, but it'll only cover their contents. Like if their laptop got, burned or something in a fire or whatever, or like a flood or something, right? Then that would cover their stuff. But all the stuff that belongs to you, such as your appliances, right? The hardwood floors, things like that, even damage to other units, liability. If your tenant caused a fire, like it should be covered with their liability, but ultimately you should have your own insurance as well too. So a perfect example is that one of our clients, they are above an amenity space and the toilet flooded from the unit, right?
Okay.
So that's not really the tenant's content insurance. That's actually the landlord's insurance that would cover it.
Okay.
Right? Because it's not the tenant's toilet. It's the landlord's toilet at the end of the day.
Yeah.
However, they didn't have insurance, so they got it paid for out of pocket, which kind of sucked.
Right. But then I'll be protected though.
10 grand out of their pocket, right?
Yeah. But I'll be protected.
So I would protect it. And, I used to hate insurance that, having a double insure just feels like a waste of money. But really for that peace of mind, it's like maybe like $20 a month, depending on the coverage that you get.
Yeah.
It's worth it, in my opinion, to do that.
Cool. And so like the tenant doesn't have a parking, right? So they're thinking about maybe subleasing it and all that. So that's just between them and the other person there. Can lease it to, right?
Ooh, that's a good one too. So what happens is, your question is if the tenant decides to rent out the parking and then they leave, but the tenant, this parking spot still rented out, what do you do? Right? Should you allow the sublease? We actually had this situation just come up.
Okay.
I personally would allow the sublease because I don't want to penalize your tenant if they're depending on that income, in a sense. And if they're not using it, they don't have a car, they don't plan to, I would allow them to.
You would, okay.
Now, I would also have an arrangement where anytime they sign a new lease with the subtenant, that if they end their lease, they can ask for the spot back.
Got it.
Right? Because you need to have that back for the new person, for a next tenant that comes in.
Got it.
But I wouldn't stop the current tenant from being able to lease out the space.
Got it.
Even if they have a little bit of profit, good, let them be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to have to manage an individual parking or locker or whatever, rental yourself. It's just more stuff to have to manage. You don't want that.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what I was thinking too. I was like, I don't want to deal with it, right? I want him to do it. But then, just like what you said, like what would happen if they ended up leaving, right? And then I have to get a new tenant. So I have to just make sure that there's a clause or something like that saying that if we do get another tenant, they have the right to have the parking, basically.
So we have a subleasing agreement that I would give to your tenant
right now
to give to the parking tenant.
Got it.
And they sign it saying that they'll terminate the rental for the parking spot if the subtenant asks for, or the landlord, the head tenant or head landlord, I guess, asks for it.
Okay.
In other words.
Cool.
Make sense?
Yeah.
What else?
That's awesome. What's that? Add that one.
New landlord.
See, new landlord. I guess that was it. That was one of my main concerns, like with the insurance. Like, should I take it off? Because I know it's like I'm not going to be living there, right? But then what's the point? But I mean, that fully makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's going to cost you about $300, $350, maybe $400 a year to insure it. And just for that peace of mind, even if you just throw away that $400, $350, just in case there's a flood, just in case there's a fire, right? Knock on wood. Then I would have it just to cover yourself.
What about the when can I kick? Like, let's just say they stop paying. How hard would that be to evict them, though?
Ooh, that's a concern that everybody has. Yeah. So if your tenant stopped paying, so this is why it's very important to research them ahead of time. Yeah. Make sure they have a good job in case that they don't pay. You have a way to garnish wages or actually be able to collect from them. If you got an entrepreneur in there who can just fold up shop, right? You don't know how they're gonna pay you. Like, how are you gonna collect from them? You can't squeeze blood from a stone. That's why I know you took somebody with extra deposits. You shouldn't be taking somebody with extra deposits. And that, to me, I don't even want that. I'd rather have somebody with a better job than a better profile, good credit, than somebody that doesn't.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Because just because they give you extra deposits, like, what does that mean when it runs out? Like, what are you going to do if they stop paying after month 2? So they have 2-3 months on deposit for you, which you shouldn't have anyway. But if you do have that, like, that's going to run out quickly. It's going to take like 5 months to get them out, if not longer. Right.
Yeah.
So, but if they stop paying rent right away, what we do typically is give a courtesy notice, like a 5-day courtesy notice. But on the 5th day, we'll give an N4 notice, which is a notice to terminate the lease.
Got it.
Right. And after that 14 days passes, you tell them, like, hey, listen, it's just something we have to do. It's not that we don't want to, but if you pay it, obviously this goes away, but it's a formality. We give you this. So after 14 days or 15, on the 15th day, if they don't pay the rent, then the lease is officially terminated, which then you can take to the landlord and tenant board tribunal, and you get an L1, which is a notice to evict and collect the rent, right? Which takes, I think, 2 weeks to get a court date or something, or another week or two. And then, a few months, you'll get the hearing date. And then at that point, you can present your evidence and you go through with a paralegal. Don't do it yourself. Get a professional to do it.
Yep.
And when they do it, they'll issue an order to say, pay your rent and, all the damages to date. And then you can take that to a small claims court to get a judgment against them. And then at that point, you can do collections as well, too. And also you can get the sheriff at the same time to boot them out as well. Like, physically evict them if they're still there.
Well, hopefully, knock on wood, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But
these are concerns that's why if you take the time to really review the tenant and their profile, right? And they have good history of paying the rent. Because chances are, if they have good credit, that means they're paying the bills on time. They're responsible.
Yeah.
And that will also translate to other parts of their life as well, too.
I kind of met them. We kind of met on Zoom.
But you can't tell. You can't tell from meeting somebody. Like, they could present well. The reason why I know is because I actually had a professional tenant in one of my clients' place when I first started my career. And he looked well. He was dressed up in a suit. I thought he was a good guy. Turns out, like, the month 2, he stopped paying rent, right away. And he knew this too. I couldn't go in. Like, he was in the unit. I was in front of his door knocking. I mean, I could break and enter, but then now I'm in trouble for breaking and entering or trespassing. You know what I mean? Like, but like, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, got it.
So you have to follow the law and make sure that and you serve the notices properly as well too.
Got it. Cool.
But there is a process for it. The rules are made to protect you as a landlord. They're also there to protect the tenants tenants because, at the end of the day, the landlords are the one in the power, right? They're the ones with better financial resources typically, right? And they should be there to protect it from greedy landlords.
Cool.
And this is actually something I want to talk about really quickly. It's called the financialization of real estate, treating real estate like an investment, right? Now, I'm all for it in the long run, but I'm not for booting tenant outs in the short run. Next year, the rent goes up, the market goes up. Now you got to pay. You know what I mean? Like, these are people's homes that you're working with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let them stay a little bit longer. Have a nominal increase. At the end of the day, you're still going to win by having the mortgage paid off. Don't be greedy. Don't be a slumlord.
Yeah.
Fix your problems. Fix the issues.
100%.
Invest back into your property and just treat it right. It's somebody's home. You're making a home for somebody. You're fortunate enough to have the capital to be able to own a property, to provide a house for somebody, and they're paying for the use of it.
Got it.
Right? That's as simple as that. And the laws are there to protect both sides to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing.
So how do you feel about international tenants? Like, let's say from the U.S.
Okay.
Because they don't have anything here in presence, right?
Right. So international tenants are sometimes a little bit scary because if they can just easily pack up and go and leave you with a big damage and big bill. Right. So I'm kind of concerned about that because they have nothing really tied to here. Chances are, if they're here on a work permit or some sort of permit,
Let's say for school,
immigration, school permit, they're not going to want to just get in trouble with the law. I'm sure they're going to want to behave well so they can stay in the country because they probably came from a country that's. Oh, actually, I shouldn't say they probably did because you don't know. But if they came from another country that, it's a privilege to be in Canada, as we should all know that, then they don't want to leave. They don't want to get in trouble, right? So those sometimes behave. But the ones that don't have any ties here at all, to me, it's a little bit risky. And to me, it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah.
I'd rather have somebody local.
So even in the States, you wouldn't do it. They're coming from the States.
I mean, it depends on the situation.
They have like the dad that like has the, let's just say, as what's called guarantor, something like that.
Local guarantor?
No, in the States as well.
States guarantor? Like, how are you going to collect cross border though?
Yeah, got it.
Right,
He's going to be part of the application too.
Well, you basically have to pay somebody cross-border, like a lawyer, like international law, right? Like what law governs international for non-payment of rent? Like, good luck, right? You know what I mean? So you can't. I guess you can sue them if there's any criminal lawyers out there that know how to, or any lawyers out there
it's
know
going
to
to be
sue.
like very tedious.
yeah, it's just not worth the effort. And it's going to cost you a ton in legal bills to chase some rent, right? So not to say that I wouldn't give a chance to new immigrants to the country or foreigners or whatever. Just be cautious. That's all. And it depends on the story. Like I've accepted international people, right? Because they're well behaved, not their personality, but you could tell just based on their history of their employment, of where they work, their online media presence, right? Even their credit report as well too.
Yeah, I do that too. I was checking everything. Always, always going.
If they look like a good fit, good professional, like great job, and like, no scammers. Like you the worst thing is you don't want them to pick up and everything goes like bad in Canada. They pick up and go back to the Bahamas or wherever. Actually happened to us for some tech startup guy, and he thought he was great, and he got he got good funding, so he had millions in the account and stuff, lots of employees. But the company didn't do well, and they folded, and he left with huge damage.
Right.
So I'd be scared of that. How are you going to sue him? Maybe he doesn't live in the country and he doesn't have any ties to the country.
Yeah.
In Canada. So that's what I'm worried about.
So let's say, for example, the dishwasher breaks. Mm-hmm. Now it says that they only cover up to $100. Everything else is you.
Mm-hmm. What about it? Oh, in the lease.
Yeah, in the lease.
Well,
is that your responsibility now?
Yeah. So often people, like landlords, would put in leases that the tenant's responsible for the first $100. But like if it's natural wear and tear, say for the first tenant, fine, like it's okay, whatever. Right? You guys can figure it out. But by the fifth tenant, by the sixth tenant,
you should fix it or something.
Like it's kind of wear and tear. Like it's ultimately your dishwasher. They're going to be there for a number of years. They're not going to take that dishwasher with them. That dishwasher will last several years. I personally think it's a capital expenditure that you should plan for as a landlord.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
And you should pay for it. I wouldn't even put on the tenant to spend the $100 to do it. Like if it's naturally wear and tear. But if they're the ones who like damaged it, whatever, like stood on it, jumped on it or something, or kicked it in or something, of course they're going to pay for negligence, right? But like for natural wear and tear, I would just let it go.
Got it.
Right.
Cool.
Any other questions as a landlord?
That's it.
Okay. Well, I'm happy for you because you're on the way to build financial wealth.
Thank you.
Not through financializing real estate again. So not by, ripping off tenants, but providing a safe housing. And by nature of doing that, you get rewarded for doing that because your mortgage gets paid off in 25 or 30 years, whatever your amortization is, right? It appreciates in value.
Yep.
And what else you get? What are the other two benefits that you get out of investing in real estate?
Tax
benefits, right?
Yeah.
So if you go sell it, you only get half the gains, basically. Like you get taxed on half the gains towards your income, right? And the other thing is, what else?
Investing. Cash
out refis, don't forget that, right? That's also a tax benefit too. So if it goes up in value by, let's say, another $200,000 or so, you could take out a portion as a loan as long as you can support the rental payments, the debt service, right? Then basically you'd be able to realize that profit, I guess, in a sense.
So would you refi or would you just get a HELOC? What do you think?
Same thing. That's the same thing.
Same thing.
It's like you're basically borrowing against the gain, growth, extra growth, right?
Right.
But you're not actually realizing the gain, so you don't get taxed on that, right? So it's not like you actually earned it. So you can use that time value money to, like eventually you can have to pay the taxes, but you can wait. You can do that later on down the road when your tax bracket's lower. Or you don't need the income as much or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And you can use that money now to reinvest it and make more money, even.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. So that's a huge benefit that you wouldn't get in a course of everyday business. Like if you're working a job and you have commissions, whatever, you're going to get taxed on the commissions that you make, but you don't get taxed on equity that grows, and you're borrowing against that equity. Make sense?
Yeah, got it. Sounds good
stuff. And the last one was cash flow, because eventually it will cash flow when rents go up and your mortgage gets paid down, because your mortgage is going to stay the same. Like the amount owing starts at this amount, unless you refi or whatever, but eventually it'll go down, but the payments stay the same, right? Even through the inflationary times. In 10 years from now, 20 years from now, if you keep everything the same, it's still going to be the same payment, just paying itself off. But rents are going to go up. So that excess is your cash flow positive.
Yeah. Cool.
So congrats.
Sounds good. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the help.
And that's that. Thanks for listening to another edition of Broadview Table Talks. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Take care, guys.
Add it up.